That movie rules.
Toy Story 2 Truther?
Yeah. Yeah, most people say 3 is the best.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
best. 2 is the best of all. And Bug's Life.
Oh, wow. That's a throwback.
Bug's Life is the other one. I love that movie.
Oh my God. I don't think I've seen Bug's Life since I was in like first grade.
I didn't realize it was about the struggles of the working class, though. I just liked the circus bugs.
What radicalized you a Bug's Life?
I was radicalized when I was like 4. Now I'm doing a podcast.
Yep. And we're here.
We're back for the first time since session really got started. So my name is Johnny Tvedt.
And I'm Megan Petersen.
And this is Waiver Watch. So today is Monday, February 23rd. We are officially in session. The horrors persist.
But so do we.
But so do we. And now that we're in full swing here, we're no longer in the preseason. We actually have bill numbers, which is huge. We are going to talk about session up to this point and a few other things. It's going to be a short session. We have not many weeks of it. I mean, from now until the end of April is really when we'll be meeting at committees and having testimony and hearing, and it'll wrap up pretty quick. So it's here and it'll be gone before you know it. But before we get into sessions, do we want to remind folks of upcoming events?
I sure do. Women's Summit is next week. Really, really excited about it. We've also got a webinar coming up on the 18th of March, Confronting DSP Workforce Issues. I believe that is an ARRM members only webinar. So if you're not an ARRM member and you want to partake in that webinar, get in touch with our membership team. We also have, as a reminder, our Next Tech AI and Innovation for Providers on April 8th. That is open to register now as well. Another webinar on April 15th on appreciative inquiry to shift culture and spark transformation. That one sounds exciting. And then looking way ahead to the end of April, we have a Sip and Bloom networking night. It's nice to think about things blooming when it is yet again frigid in Minnesota.
We had 1 week, the false spring of February, and you get reacclimated, and then it tricks you every year, because this year I was like, oh, winter coat going back in the closet, boots are going away, and then nope.
You should know better.
I should, but I'll never learn. So on top of that, we also have Day at the Capitol coming up March 24th. You do not need to register to attend the rally itself. We would love to have more folks showing up to talk to their legislators one-on-one. It's a huge part of our advocacy every year. We've gotten a lot of registrations already, so let's keep them rolling. Even though the deadline was technically on Friday, reach out if you still haven't registered and need to. You can shoot me an email and we'll get you signed up.
I'm excited about the button contest.
The button contest was a huge success this year. So for those who don't know, every year ARRM does a button contest for buttons that we print out and distribute at Day at the Capitol. We always have 2 winners, and our winners have been selected. The buttons are being made, and those artists will be contacted pretty shortly here. But we had over 40 submissions, which is almost double what we had last year. Some really awesome artwork, a lot of community engagements, and we're really excited to share those with the rest of you. Let's talk about session.
It's here.
Yeah, so it's arrived. The Human Services Committee has already met a couple of times in the House last week, and then of course the Senate is back as well. So not a whole lot of movement on ARRM's front. None of our bills have been heard in committee yet. We will have some testimony later to talk about, but that is not related to a specific bill. There is one bill that we should make members aware of, just in case you don't follow the committee in real time, which, let's be honest, most people don't.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. Human Services Committee meets bright early, 8:15 a.m. And if you don't catch the live stream, you can watch it later on their YouTube page, which is called MN House Info, all one word. But the bill that was striking and I think caused a lot of conversation in committee last week was introduced by Chair Schumacher, who is one of the co-chairs of that committee. He's the Republican side chair. Representative Noor is the DFL side chair. And his bill is HF 3379. For those who don't know, HF means House file and SF means Senate file. So if you hear HF, that means it's a House bill. If you hear SF, it's a Senate bill. But 3379 is to formally codify the end of housing stabilization services. So last fall, October 31st, Housing Stabilization Services, HSS, was repealed by the state. And this was done without the input of the state legislature. They were not in session. We have a part-time legislature that is not in session in the month of October or in the fall at all. So there's a lot of confusion on why it was done this way without any legislator inputs, why this was so abruptly terminated. We know that this conversation always leads back to fraud. I mean, it's the word that keeps coming up in these committees, and rightfully so, formally ending housing stabilization services, because even though the service was terminated in the fall, they wanted to formally remove it from statute. This sounds simple enough. The conversation then arose about legitimizing the way that the service was repealed. The argument from some of the representatives was, yes, there's fraud, but we can't let services be kind of unilaterally gotten rid of by the administration or by the departments or by whoever without any legislative input. So there's going to be ongoing conversation around that. I don't think there is any debates about the fraud component of it. It's the matter in which a service can be removed. And that's going to be the conversation around this bill.
And I know the Senate has a lot of opinions about that too.
The Senate's going to have a lot of opinions about it. I don't know that's the companion bill for this has been introduced in the Senate yet, or who's carrying it. For those who don't follow state legislature, typically you'll have duplicate versions of the bill in the House and the Senate. Almost always you'll have that. So when you see one bill, there's always a companion bill, it's called, in the other chamber. So far, I've only seen this one in the House, but we will wait to see what happens in the Senate.
Yeah, I bring it up just that hearing that ARRM testified at a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it was said super explicitly very much in that hearing, but it was sort of hinted at that like this happened when the legislators were not in session and John Hoffman was out for medical reasons, and it was just kind of this chaos in the fall without really any input from legislators.
Yep, that was a pre-session kind of information gathering hearing at the end of January. The recording of that is also on YouTube on the Minnesota Senate YouTube page, but that'll be the ongoing conversation. It's not whether or not we can preserve some of these services that have a lot of fraud in it. There are fraud measures in place right now, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But how we go about legislating these services out of existence or fixing them to be rid of fraud, that's going to be the conversation all year, and maybe in future years too. We'll have to see. But ARRM will be testifying in the Senate today on this very topic, at least insofar as fraud prevention measures are concerned. So part of the agreement with CMS to get some of this fraud out of the state was to put in a prepayment review process in. This prepayment review process has been really troubling, to say the least. This was done without a lot of provider inputs, without a lot of legislative inputs, much like getting rid of HSS. But it involves a whole screening process for payments on each service line for the 14 identified services that the state has said is open to a lot of fraud, that may be more vulnerable to fraud, or they've seen fraudulent payments at a higher rate than other services. Trying to be very careful how we talk about it because it's complicated.
It is, yeah.
We are testifying today. ARRM is our Director of States and Federal Legislative Affairs, Sarah Grafstrom, and our Director of Research, Ken Bentz, will be testifying in the Senate today on how some of these measures have hurt legitimate providers. So this prepayment review has made it so that actually getting paid for services has taken significantly longer. And when you're talking about an organization that can't make payroll before the next payment comes, then it's putting a lot of providers under significant financial stress, with these prepayments taking seriously long times. So the screening process is that these all go through a contract with Optum. It goes back to DHS for review if there's anything that raises an alarm, but it has made it so that all payments requests have taken significantly longer. And it's for every provider. So it's not just ones who have significant risk of fraud or anything like that. It's just all payments. So you have a provider who's been doing this for 30 years, who's never been accused of anything fraudulent, has followed the law, has done everything above the board, and yet their payments would be under scrutiny as well. When you have that in place, it creates issues in the system, and it really backs everything up financially.
Legislators were not consulted, as far as we know. Provider organizations were not consulted. People with disabilities were also not consulted. And we, as ARRM, as a provider association, we tend to look at things through the provider lens. But at the end of the day, people with disabilities are the ones that bear the most from this sort of like heavy-handed.
Yeah, so the term I keep hearing is they've taken a hammer when they should have used
A scalpel.
a scalpel.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty good analogy for this, especially when you're talking about the people who will be impacted, like Megan said, weren't at the table at all. And there was a level of expediency that they did this with because it was such a highly publicized, scrutinized event over the fall, all this fraud coming out of Minnesota. But the solution has created more issues. The quote unquote solution has created more issues. So it's unfortunate, but it'll be something that we track throughout session. And right now we're so early on, we'll just have to see how those conversations play out. I know that ARRM being one of the folks who will be testifying on this issue, it's good to have at least our perspective and the perspective of our members, because we're coming in with data from our members, stories from our members, their perspectives, and we're really just translating that into testimony that will go before the House and the Senate. Last thing I have is just a couple bill numbers.
Ooh, exciting.
We got bill numbers. So when a bill is formally introduced in the House or Senate, they get their official numbers that identify what they are and what they do. It's when you can really start reaching out to your legislators and say, support this or support that, and have that specific number on hand to give them. So we have two bill numbers right now. One is for our IHST bill.
Individualized home supports with training.
I always get that a little confused in my head.
It's the iced tea bill.
Yes, the iced tea bill. So in the Senate, that is being introduced by Senator Utke, a Republican from Greater Minnesota. The Senate bill for that is 3657. And of course, IHST undergoing some significant caps after last year's legislative session ended. This makes it so that instead of a daily cap, it's an annual cap, just to give providers of IHST some flexibility. So when it's capped the way it is at 3 consecutive hours and 6 hours a day, it makes it so that people can't really get the services they need on the days they need them. And then the same bill will be introduced in the House by Representative Breon Curran. That is House File 3375. To note, our Senate's author is a Republican. Our House author is a Democrat. These are bipartisan bills that gets pretty widespread support. It's not a partisan issue. We typically see this with our bills, that you don't have to be one side of the aisle or the other to understand the importance of this issue. And then finally, the Best Life Alliance bill. So every year, ARRM collaborates with other trade organizations and advocacy groups on the Best Life Alliance. We always introduce a bill to enhance or update the DSP base wage index, the whole atmosphere of DSP wages, and how to calculate what's a fair pay is for direct support professionals. And the Best Life Alliance always is looking to update that with the most up-to-date consumer price index prices. It's a fancy way of just saying we want those wages to be based off the most accurate, up-to-date economic information. And we're bringing that bill forward again. That is House File 3374. So look out for those. They should be getting hearings in the coming weeks. For now, we just have the bill numbers as formal introductions, but we hope to see those in committee soon.
Exciting.
And we're off to a fast start. So as with every session, there's going to be things we track that are not ARRM specific, but that have impacts on our providers. And we'll continue to find those and bring them to this podcast. But if there is anything that you all see out there that is of interest, let us know so that we can track it. It's possible that myself or Sarah or Ken just haven't seen it yet, and there'll be information that we would want to know.
Yeah. And the best way to reach kind of anyone on staff is info at arrm.org. And if you want to send us a question to answer on the podcast, questions@arrm.org is the email that we're putting out there for that.
Yeah, I think some of our plans for future episodes will be having actual members on to speak about some of their experiences with some specific services that might be under more scrutiny during this legislative session. And of course, we'd love to hear from the rest of you too. And of course, that questions inbox is the best way to do that. So if you have a question, it can be as goofy or wacky or serious as you want it to be. send it over to us and give us a little fodder for next week's pod.
Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. Quick episode today.
See you later, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to the Waiver Watch podcast produced by ARRM. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, as well as our other social media. Be sure to tune in next week, and we will see you soon.